Okay. I want you to graph 3x plus 6y minus 12 equals 0. I already asked the same question on the previous slide in a previous video, and the way I made you solve it there was the slope-intercept way, where you get y by itself. But now I want you to work it with intercepts. At the top of the screen you see your definition of intercepts. One time let x be 0, one time let y be 0, and you can solve it out. Now the first thing I want you to notice about it is when I'm using the intercept way, I move the constant to the other side. So I have my x's and y's on one side and the constant on the other. Now, if I'm working it this way, by definition at the top, it says to find the x-intercept, you let y be 0. Okay? So that means I have 3x plus 6 times 0, because y is 0, and that equals 12. So that's 3x equals 12, because 6 times 0 is 0. I'll divide by 3, and x would equal 4. So my x-intercept is 4. If I wrote that out in proper form, x is 4 and y is 0. To find the y-intercept, your definition at the top says let x be 0. So we have 3 times x, which is 0, plus 6 times y equals 12. 3 times 0 is 0. 6y would equal 12. Divide both sides by 6, and y would equal 2. For this particular point, x is 0, and y is 2. When you get ready to graph it, on your x-axis, you're going to have an intercept at 4. And on your y-axis, you're going to have an intercept at 2. And then all you have to do is connect the dots. They're called points, sorry. Connect the points. And that's how it would work. So that's how you would do it by x and y intercepts. There's an easier way called the cover-up method, but I couldn't show that to you on the screen. I needed to use my hands, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. So let's try one more of those. I ask you here to graph using the intercepts. So let's see if we can make it a little bit easier. The very first thing that I like to do is I like to move the 16 over so that I have 8x minus 4y equals 16. Now, one of these times I'm going to let x be 0, and then I'll solve out the rest of it. And then the second time I'm going to let y be 0, and then I'll solve out the rest of it. So if x is 0, I have 8 times 0 minus 4y equals 16. Well, 8 times 0 is 0. So negative 4y would equal 16. I'll divide by negative 4, and y would equal negative 4. Now for this particular point, x was 0 and y was negative 4. Okay, x was 0 and y was negative 4. That's where I am. That means my y-intercept was negative 4. You'll say, how do you know which one was which? It says here y is negative 4, so that's why I knew it went in the y blank. You could also write it this way. Now let's try the other one. For the other one, I let y be 0. So 8x minus 4 times 0, because y is 0, that equals 16. 4 times 0 is 0. So 8x equals 16. I'll divide both sides by 8, and x would equal 2. Well, since it says x, that's going to be your x-intercept. But writing it as a point, when x is 2, y is 0. So that would be the point 2, 0, which is right here. Now once you get there, you can connect your points. There's one other topic that I skipped that I want to go back and grab. And that's the concept of horizontal and vertical lines. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and their equations start with y equals. Vertical lines have an undefined slope, and their equation starts with x equals. In this particular problem, I ask you to graph y equals 4. At first glance, I want you to recognize that something looks funny. It's missing a letter. So if it's missing an x or a y, that lets you know that this is a special case. It's either vertical, which is straight up and down, or it's horizontal, which is straight across. If it's missing a letter, it's one of those special cases. Now you can memorize that y is horizontal if you'd like, or I have a silly little way of remembering it. If you make your y that way, it looks like an upside down H, and so that's how I keep it in my mind that y is a horizontal line. When I get ready to graph this one, I'm going to make sure I'm on my y-axis since the equation says y equals, and it says y equals 4, so there I am. I'm going to draw a horizontal line through it. That's all you do. So the next one I ask you is x equals. What you'll notice about this one is it's missing a letter. If it's missing a letter, missing an x or a y, that means it's a special case. You can memorize back on the previous slide, it says x equals is a horizontal line. I do mine a silly way. If you write your x like this, it's made up of two v's. So that's how I remember that x equals is a vertical line. When I get ready to graph this one, I'm going to make sure I'm on my x-axis since it says x equals, and here's where x is -2, and I'm going to draw a vertical line through it. That's how it looks.